Ready or not, here we are. Also, thank you for sitting.
Oh gosh, I was here.
Yeah. He was
I don't
like,
know where Brittany is.
huh?
Brittany, I don't know where Brittany is.
She's off gallivanting around town.
She's
No, I'm
flitting
kidding.
around
She's got
somewhere.
other stuff going on. But David,
Exactly.
I walked in. I was like, "Is David sitting in?" And he goes, "Well, I can." So thank you.
I'm sitting here working on a story, and I
So
can
what
take a break.
is this? We got to keep it under wraps. This
Oh no!
story,
it's,
okay.
I think I hit publish before I came over here.
Sweet.
But basically, a woman was charged with stealing money from a baseball organization
Little League.
down in Rawls County.
They don't do that sort of thing in Rawls County.
Dang.
Oh well, that's the sheriff's office says they do.
Which is really, I mean,
It wasn't in Perry?
No, it was in New London.
New London, yeah.
So-
it wouldn't happen in Perry.
Of course. Okay. Well,
Wouldn't
of course not.
more than $750.
Yeah, $15,000.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah.
From a Little League baseball organization.
Yep.
Shame.
Took the credit card, made a credit card without telling the board, and then spent almost $15,000 on things from Amazon.
What's the charge on that? Class
D felony.
Okay.
You know,
I think it'll eventually be. They could get a year in prison.
the former center city clerk got up to like $250,000, so this woman had a ways to go, apparently.
Well,
So-
we're talking Little League baseball.
Yeah,
It wasn't-
Yeah,
that
this-
wasn't
well, yes,
many
because the
games.
city of Center has such a large payroll and a large budget and all that. So
It's just the circumstances surrounding certain things. You're like, how could you? Now, how was she involved with the Little
She was the
League?
treasurer of the league.
Okay.
that's how you do
There
it.
you
And
go.
so,
money
so
person.
she had her hands on all of the entry fees. She
Yeah.
had money, had all the concession stand money.
First offense.
I don't
we
know
know?
if it was her first offense, but nonetheless.
Got to
she-
vet those candidates for sure, especially when they're treasurers.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
I
Who does
just-
that? Nobody.
I
They don't
just,
care.
I do find it's kind of like when you've got an organization like that,
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine that why you would ever say, let's just give the books to Bob here.
Yeah.
And let's not check on Bob.
No.
Let's not ask him to turn in any reports.
Right, no checks and balances.
No checks. We're just, Bob, you're in charge of all the money.
Yeah. That's what happens when you kind of get lazy or, a
Absolutely
little
it
bit
is.
of,
I get questions from the partners about spending.
I wasn't talking
Absolutely.
about you.
I'm just saying. We're just
That's
like
funny.
talking.
He's like, wait
now
a
they're
minute.
like, wait a minute. Now
like
that,
all these
yeah,
fingers pointing
yeah.
at me. Now I'm in the hot
Yeah.
seat.
What's this for? What's this for?
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
no. I think it's strange that you would use that position to pilf from such a sweet little organization. It's like for one, $15,000 is a lot for any
Well,
organization.
how about the guy
but
over in Honeywell here in the last month who was in charge of a hog farm operation over in Monroe County, and he basically brought hogs that didn't exist
yeah,
to the
Hashtag fake pigs.
yeah.
and stole $3 million. Basically doing the same thing.
I
That's
just-
real money.
Yeah, I don't know how you have balls for that. I mean, I could, when I was young, and I don't know if you guys have ever stolen anything, but I'll go ahead and
I
throw
have.
myself on the sword
Sure.
here. Yeah, so
Sure.
when I was young, I went to the Modern Dairy, and I took one of those little square Laffy Taffy, the little green Laffy Taffy, and took it home, and my mom said, "How'd you get that?" Now, I should have eaten it on the way, hindsight, 2020.
Got to
But-
destroy the evidence.
Right? How'd you get that? You had no money. And I was like, well, I just took it. It was on the thing, how they used to have the plastic things
I
on
thought
the
you paid
counter.
for it.
Well, I thought it was like a sample, like when you go to the store. I went back with my tail tucked between my legs, bawling like a baby because I have always been taught stealing is a sin, right? It's a no-no. You just don't do it. Not just for the simple fact that, it's wrong, but because karma and somebody has to pay for it.
Right.
And right. So now it's like, it seems like these occasions are getting more and more and more, and no one has the scruples anymore. I don't say no one, but it seems less and less that people are checking themselves, their moral compass before they do something.
We pay you to be here. Don't you feel like you're stealing?
Listen, I earn every penny. No, I'm kidding. No, I am lucky. But yeah. So stealing, have you guys said you've stolen? What was your first klepto experience?
Oh, I don't remember. It
I
was
can
years
remember.
ago.
Her name was Veedy Aiden. She was like a juvenile.
That's a good name.
Officer here in Quincy, and I don't remember what it was, but I had to deal with her, and I knew her because I had a guy that I was a year older than me in school, football player. I've known other members of the Aiden family.
Yeah.
And I mean, she couldn't have been nicer to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, my gosh, that was 50 years ago, probably.
Yeah.
Still remember
dining
it.
and dashing. That's stealing.
Oh,
right?
that's big time stealing. Yeah.
So
Because
that.
especially now, because a lot of servers have to have their bank in their pocket, because of the POS systems and stuff. So when you're stealing directly from them because then they have to.
I think
pay
I
for
did
your
that
tab.
drunkenly probably like 20 years ago. Would have been the last time I'd have done it.
Well, you also
So.
don't return your shopping cart when you have to poop, so I wouldn't expect anything
Well,
less.
that's
No, I'm kidding.
different.
I'm kidding.
That's different.
I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. But I do think like moral compass
Is she
is
bringing
big.
up things that we just didn't really need to bring up?
Well,
at that time?
that's
Or
what a
is it
woman
kinda
does.
like,
That's what a
Or
woman does.
throwing my trash in the shopping cart.
There you go.
That's
yeah,
usually what I do.
that's-
If I got
yeah.
a bag of McDonald's in my car, I'm like, shopping cart's right there. Psh, there you go.
Smack the shit out of you. No, so you don't remember what you stole because I feel like it was so traumatic
dining
to me.
and dashing.
That's what you did.
Yeah.
Okay, and yours you don't. It was from a store or a person.
I was like 9 or 10 years old.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So also one more kind of like traumatic story for me. I was at the Kmart around here and I wanted like a stadium seat. It was like a squishy stadium seat. And my mom told me no, so I put it under the shopping cart, and she just rode out of the store with it.
Your mom stole
My
it.
mom stole, but I was like, then I had to take that back too. So yeah, I learned from a very young age that we don't do that, but I don't know if I really learned a lesson.
Why do I have a feeling that the photo that goes with this video is going to be somebody in cuffs, and you're going to superimpose Ashley's face over the top of it?
There we go.
Believe it or not, I have never been in handcuffs. Knock on wood.
There are websites that would say otherwise.
No, balls, fake news here, buddy. No, but I've not always been an angel, but I am lucky to say I've never been arrested. So, but we were also talking about something else that happened. Where was the unfortunate event with the sheriff deputy?
Sangamon County.
Sangamon County.
Oh, yeah.
Which is not in our territory, but you're
No.
getting a ton of.
But it's number one. It's our state capital.
Yeah.
and it's
Right.
we would consider that regional. We do a lot. We cover a lot of things that happen in state government. And although this isn't state government per se, it's still
How state government's going to handle it is going to be
very true because the
interest.
governor and the senators and even the president and vice president have all weighed
I mean,
in on it.
this is it's getting national.
This
Yeah.
is going to be George Floyd, Trayvon Martin territory because the same civil rights attorney that was involved in those, Ben Crump, is involved in this now. So you look at this, and anybody that has seen the video, which we linked to on Muddy River News, it's just it's appalling. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just
Unfathomable.
And how this guy got hired by the Sangamon County Sheriff's Department is beyond me.
Yeah.
I just look at that and it's like he was at 5 different sheriff's departments. He had DUIs.
all of them in the
all of them in
Sangamon
the greater
Kincaid-
Springfield area.
Kincaid,
Yeah.
Pond-
Now, was he
Bergen.
fired or
He
dismissed
has
from
been
those positions? No, from the previous.
I don't know, but he
Okay.
was. I mean, he was like fired like that by Sangamon County.
It wasn't really clear why he bounced around. From
That would
all
be a
of the
question
different
I would
ones.
have.
But it was like, correct me if I'm wrong, but was it like 6 and 4 years? 6 different.
Or 5 and 7 or something like that.
I mean,
Something along
it was
those
not
lines.
a
Yeah.
particularly flattering number
Right.
for someone like that.
And don't they have a lot of?
It was like Chris Pratt's tied job rankings over the last year.
Oh, quit.
He's a judge. So
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
we're not
Judge
tying
Pratt,
Chris
I'm
Pratt
just
in.
kidding. So if
Throw
I'm ever
yourself
before
on the
you,
mercy
if I'm
of
ever
the court.
before you, I
If he
throw
ever ends
myself
up
on
in
the mercy
handcuffs.
of the court.
Yes, but it would be because they do have a lot of strenuous testing that you go through. I think, right? I mean, even in Quincy, they put you through like physical and mental.
I think when you're in towns like the size of Pawnee, Kincaid, and Girard,
Yeah.
I doubt that that's the case.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Which is probably why someone that I correct me if I'm wrong, had at least 1 or if not 2 DUI charges. Yeah, during
Yeah.
his recent years.
Yeah.
And but sometimes you just go, hey, this guy's got experience. We'll calm him down.
Sometimes
or
you need a warm
whatever.
body. I don't think that's the right approach
No,
for law
not-
enforcement.
No,
but
No.
the
yeah.
fact is, here's a guy who does have the training. Do you want to spend the money to train somebody new, or hey, this guy
Stick
made a
him in there.
mistake and he got got a DUI one time, but we'll work with him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
You reap
it's-
what you sow, I guess.
I just
That's
I guess
unfortunate.
I'm, and Bob and I have talked about this. I'm while the Sangamon County Sheriff didn't pull the trigger, didn't do. I can't imagine the Sangamon County Sheriff can be long for that job. I mean, there's going to be people who
Somebody
are going
has
to
to.
say, hey,
That's already happened.
Yeah.
But again, he is only, according to that, he's only accountable to the voters of Sangamon County. Although the county board, I'm sure, could lean on him or whatever. But Jack Campbell's the sheriff there, who I've met and known a couple of times. And full disclosure, I think I went to a couple of fundraisers for him back when I worked in Springfield. So,
But they get state funding, and right.
yeah.
I mean, so
Oh, yeah.
it's.
Oh yeah.
There has to be something done.
Yeah, there's going, something is going to, I mean, and of course this cop has been, ex-cop now, has been charged with murder.
Right.
So, hopefully justice will be served here. And again, if you all they have to do is show the video in court, and it's like, okay.
It's
this is
crazy.
done.
It's appalling.
I
But
mean, you would think there'd be a plea, but who knows?
But
so.
you've been getting a lot of letters to the editor, which you said sometimes that you go stretches with none, and now all of a sudden you're like,
No, I think we've had like 4 in 4 days.
Yeah.
And
All
they're
about the same-
oh gosh, no. Sometimes
Oh,
it
okay.
does happen where it is all about the same topic,
Sure.
but in this particular instance, not at all.
No.
It just bounces around. I just think one of the things that I think that we really try to encourage on our site is sometimes I should sit down with you and write a story and give my interpretation of what you have to say. That's what I do. I take the comments that are made at city council meetings or in the courtroom or whatever, and I try to give my best summarization of what I thought was said in court that day.
Sure.
Sometimes just write it down.
yeah.
You've got the pen, sit down, write out your thoughts, send it to us. We'll put Ashley Conrad, Quincy, Illinois at the bottom. Boom.
Yeah.
Letter to the editor.
Well, and I think that that's really important because a lot of times, of course, there's bias. So it's always nice to hear the other side of the pen.
Well,
right?
especially if there are some people who would say, "Oh, everybody always messes up what I got to say." Here you go.
Yeah.
Here's your
Write
shot.
it down.
Here's your opportunity.
And you know what you said. You turned it in. You
Right.
wrote it. So, I mean, the only thing that oftentimes might happen is there might have been some bad grammar. We don't want to make it look. We might fix some grammar.
Sure, because you don't want to put somebody out there that.
Well, it depends. If we don't like the person, we just let the bad grammar roll. Sound like an idiot. We're fine with that.
Well, I mean, but
I would anyway. David
I think
wouldn't.
it's really important that the letters to the editor continue because it is the voice of the people.
Absolutely,
right?
it is.
Yeah.
And I encourage people if they've got something to say.
Yeah.
I don't have to sit down and write it.
Right.
Here, send me your thoughts.
Yeah.
And we'll publish them. I mean, it can't be libelous.
Right.
But if you have opinions about whether or not the city should spend more money on cleaning up downtown Quincy, well, tell us why.
Right.
Or should they come up with the money to pay for those people? Because right now the city is saying we don't have any money to pay
Right.
for extra people. Okay, well, what are your thoughts about paying for this?
Sometimes the best ideas come from people who don't often
Absolutely.
get heard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for whatever reason.
And
yeah.
that's we try to provide that opportunity for people to say, this is what I think.
Yeah.
A voice for the voiceless, sometimes to be able to say, here, you've got thoughts. You don't have to go through me. Just write them down.
Right. I love that. I do want to say I was perusing Facebook the other day, and Kick FM threw out a post, where do you get your local news? What local news source do you trust? And we were far and above most of the other ones. So I want
Really?
to go ahead and say thank you to everybody who commented on that. I almost screenshot and sent
You
it to
need
you,
to send
but
me that.
I will. But it was flattering to know that yes, pat on
Horowitz.
everyone's back. Yeah.
Brooklyn Brawler.
Yeah. Well, I think, not everybody trusts any local news source, but I think it's important to know that we're at the top. And kudos to both of you and to Brittany and to everyone else who spends their time and their dedication to make us one of the most trusted local news sources. But I do think it's important that along with that we voice the opinions of those who we may not always get to hear.
Well,
So,
I think that's, if nothing else, I think I hear that more about what we do than anything else, which is Bob was in charge of another website many moons ago, and there was no question which way Bob's
100%.
leanings were. And
Yes.
he never made any bones about it. The person who, bankrolled that website didn't make any bones about it.
Sure.
You knew. I don't think you can say that about money. There are going to be people who will say, oh, you're a bunch of liberals, and there are going to be people who are going to say, you right-wing nut jobs.
Rhinos.
Yeah.
Rhinos.
It's kind of
Whatever.
nice to be a little ambiguous in this scenario, because I don't think
absolutely.
there really are many news sources who are ambiguous
I just
anymore.
don't think that people aren't used to, they're so used to, it's got to be either
One or the
all
other.
right or all left.
And
we try to be a little bit of both, and you figure it out.
And
Yeah.
and that Jim, my partners Jim and Mike, we've talked about that a lot. And it's like, look, Jim's like, I just, that was, when we talked about doing this in the first place, he said what I said, we're going to be an independent site. I said a truly independent site, and he's been my partners are just like, yeah, that's what we are. But I think it's funny because when you look at that, I mean, with all the national stuff going on the last 3 weeks, I've always considered. And again, I mean, you've got Fox News, which is way over here, and you've got MSNBC, which is way over here, and CNN, which is kind of middle left. And I was watching the CNN coverage at first when it all went down. It was just like, okay, you guys are covering it straight down the middle. I mean, you're talking about what's going on and Biden being
Was that
in
your
really
take?
bad shape.
I don't think that's everyone's take.
But
Okay.
no, I'm finished though. Okay. But now that
I love the wink from
now
Ashley.
Now that Kamala Harris, I did pronounce that right because I don't want to be
Kamala?
accused of pronouncing it right. Yeah, has been has ascended. Last night, CNN was in full pom pom mode.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Come on, guys! There was a period there where you guys were really. I'm like, okay, you're trying your best to be objective here. This is all right. But last night it was full. Go, girl, you go. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
this is why people hate you.
Well, I think it's because they're kind of the definition of code switching based on who's got the popularity contest win happening at the moment, right, within that party. I think that I'm not sure when news sources became so divided.
It actually is it's a very ancient tradition.
Is it?
Because back
Maybe I just never paid attention.
Alexander Hamilton had his own newspaper. I mean, each party had their own newspaper. It was this way. I mean, if you go back and read newspapers from when Lincoln was president, oh my God, the characters of Lincoln is as the devil or stuff like that.
Oh, really?
Go back and read old copies of what was the Whig and the
Herald.
Was it the
and
Herald?
the Whig and the Journal, the old Quincy Journal.
Yeah, the old
Okay.
Quincy. They go cover the exact same event.
And the verbiage is just totally, yeah.
It was like they were in two different worlds.
Yeah.
So then sort of everything. I think World War II was kind of where everybody sort of got on the same page, and then we were really good there for a while, and then the '60s came about, and then Watergate came about, and then I really believe the advent of when Fox News
I think Fox
got
News
its
changed
foothold.
again.
That
Yeah.
changed everything.
It absolutely did, because they made no bones about
Yeah.
where they stood.
They were the antithesis. Now, was there an antithesis before them?
No,
No, it was
Okay.
just the liberal media.
Gotcha.
It was basically
But I
the
think
liberal
but I
media.
think liberal,
the liberal media that went
has-
after Nixon or whatever. It's
liberal
like
has evolved into a different animal as well. So maybe that was after I mean, because it used to be like the Democrats they stood for something different, I think, right?
Yeah.
So now it almost seems like that's evolved into a totally different animal.
it has. We have a far right, we have a center right, we have a center left, and we have a far left.
And actually,
and I've said that for
Bob wrote a really
years.
good column about that a few in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
where it's like there really are four parties now,
Yeah.
not two.
And then there's Ashley, who doesn't really know anything about anything, but she throws her opinion out there and just wants everybody to get along.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
there's again,
The
you've
get
got
along party.
That's what it should be.
and
Is that what the Boll Conrad T-shirt?
that
all
is? That's
about?
yes.
Should get along,
They don't
baby.
care who's on top. That's
Get
right.
along, little doggies.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what they're all about.
Well, and I think, and
You had
I
to
don't
throw
know.
that in there, didn't
I
you?
did.
I
Great
don't know
tagline.
how it would work, but if it were, kind of sanctioned or, you couldn't be affiliated politically, right? If as a news source, I think it would be a lot better. I don't know how that would work because I know a lot of people are bought and paid for, especially legacy media. They're bought and paid for by certain people with agendas, and those agendas trickled out, of course, to the masses. And I think I don't like to use the term brainwash, but it's definitely influential. It would be really nice if every news source came together and said, we're going to let the masses make up their minds because we have faith in their ability to do so.
But it's not only the people who actually do news, but it's the companies as well. Because I just saw today there was some announcement that Netflix has given Harris like $7 million, and all these people are like, we're dropping Netflix now.
Netflix, yeah.
Okay, that's great. What does that? I mean, great. That's
a lot of comedians
I guess you're going to watch your movie.
Guess you won't watch House of Cards anymore or whatever.
I want to watch. Well, no, Charlie Hustle's on HBO Max.
Okay, yeah.
So the Pete Rose documentary, which I can't wait to watch.
I think corporations. It would behoove a lot of corporations if they would just stay out of political goings on, because
that's not possible.
It should be, though. It
But
should be.
just not going to be.
If you have a great product or a great service, stand on those haunches alone. Because if you get involved politically, you're alienating one side or another automatically. And whether people veer off of it or not.
It kind of comes back to, and Bob and I were talking about this morning. I was home last night and I watched. There was a series of documentaries done by CNN's Jake Tapper called "The United States of Scandal."
Yeah.
And the first one was on Rod Blagojevich.
Oh, boy.
It was so well done.
Really?
But it was basically, his argument was, I got this seat. I don't want to be the governor anymore. So I'm going to maximize that seat to the person who's going to give me the money.
Yeah.
Just like you do when you say, hey, if you give us
highest
X
bidder
amount of money for this, I'll make sure one of your people gets a seat with this board or on this cabinet or whatever. And he's like, that's how fundraising's done.
It's
gross. What's any different than what I did? Now, it was interesting how he came to that conclusion.
I've got this thing and it's fucking golden.
Absolutely.
That was awesome.
I mean,
that's one of the greatest lines in Illinois political history. Yeah. The quote. And then they have Rod on there because Rod is such a media whore. I think Rod would come on Club Muddy if we asked him to and said, "Hey, we'll pay you to come to Quincy." He's been to Quincy before. He got lost jogging in Quincy once when he was running for governor because that's back when I was on the Herald Whig editorial board and he kept Tom Oakley waiting. Because he got lost jogging in Quincy.
If nothing else, it would be interesting to hear his take on things. But I do think that, of course, money being the ultimate value of things has turned our society into one big dumpster fire. But I think political goings-ons and money being involved in that is just, it's insane to me. And it's all culminating in what we see today, which is one big shit show.
How much money did Kamala raise in her first?
$81 million.
Like $81 million in 24 hours.
Yeah, gross.
Yeah.
Has anyone heard that lady speak? Look, I'm not one side or the other.
No, the hell, stop. Alex Goff would disagree.
Well, yes. But if you hear her speak, and she's been non-existent, and this is me, right? Just a little gal who doesn't know anything. But
she Muddy River News does not
just
necessarily...
Just a small town girl?
Well,
Muddy River News does not necessarily...
They don't agree with my thoughts.
Conrad do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of Muddy River News.
She's been non-existent, and I think that any one of us would be a better president, and that's just maybe even my 9-year-old. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out there.
I guess we know which way Ashley's going to vote then, huh?
Well, no, you don't, because I'm a wild card. But you can bet.
I know who she's voting for.
You can bet that I'm not voting for that.
I know exactly who she's voting for.
Yeah.
You know what? Save that for.
I will save that. But I guess I want to wrap this up on. Okay, well, you mentioned the Boll Conrad thing. Have you got your new tank top yet?
Mm-mm.
We got to get that because you and Brittany are going to wear the new tank tops in the hot tub.
Too hot for the hot
tub segment. We got a hot tub segment coming up.
Okay, I said
if you want to see the hot tub segment, let us know. If you don't want to let us see the hot tub segment, let us know.
Well, I said I'm going to be the
website
in
of the people.
The giant shirt with the water bubbling up, and it's not going to be. There's no sex appeal here, guys. So that's just a forewarning. I'm just going to let the bubbles bubble up and have my cocktail just hanging out with my shirt on.
We have already had one hot tub segment already on.
Yes, from him and his giant cartoon cigar. Was that right?
Oh, no, because I was in the hot tub with my wife while we were in Florida, my mom and dad. So there's no cigar there. No, the giant cartoon cigar was...
Maybe there will be if David allows you to have one in his new toy, which, by the way, congratulations on your hot tub.
Treat yourself!
I think it's so important to treat yourself.
It is. It really is. It really is. To be honest, it's the first thing. People save up money to go... I saw a guy driving a motorcycle down the street. And I go, motorcycle, not my thing.
I travel.
People want to go travel. People want to buy a new car. People want to buy what. this is like the first, I mean, have I moved? Yes. But I mean, those weren't
This is a luxury item.
It wasn't something for just me.
Yeah.
And so I've had it for about 48 hours. I've been in.
Oh, really? It's brand new. You've been in there.
I mean, it's brand.
You've been in there
new.
both nights then?
Oh, I got in. I was in on
morning.
On
It's got that new hot tub smell.
Oh yeah, it was midnight Tuesday or midnight Wednesday morning.
That's excellent.
Because it hadn't warmed up yet, and I'm like, it's at 99 degrees. I think I can get in and do this.
99 is not hot enough for me, but it is nice in the morning.
And it was just I wanted to sit there and just like yell out in my backyard, like, woohoo!
Yeah, baby.
David Adams Celebrity Hot Tub.
I love it.
Oh yeah.
So
there will be no podcasts.
Come on.
This is not going to be a segment.
Come on.
Oh man, but either
The
way,
last thing people need to see is me in a hot tub.
hey, I don't know. There's
You and Ashley and Brittany and some Cavatier
Cavatier
to go with the hot tub.
Bob could say Cavatier,
Cavatier.
and I would laugh every single time. He has two things that get me every time.
Yeah.
Dice clay.
Yeah.
And,
Hickory dickory dock.
Yeah.
and Cavatier.
Yeah.
And but you gotta get a TV with a hot tub.
I have to.
Gotta get the TV
That's
done.
next. That's
Yeah.
So
I was out there twice, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna want a TV right there to watch football.
Perfect. So I do think treating yourself is important, not only for your
When's the
mental
last
health,
time you
but
treated yourself?
I treat myself daily.
Okay.
I do
She
not
does.
hold back. I'm like, what do I need today? Let's get this party started. I am endorphins, and I am heavy on that. Like, what do I need to do to get my happy up? So I never withhold from myself.
And I'm terrible at it.
Yeah. Well, you should do more of it because I think maybe
I
today
am.
that's
Starting
why.
Tuesday, I'm doing it probably every day. I'm going
Good.
to sit there and take a 10-minute dip.
It's gonna take a little time this next
Perfect.
week. So good for you.
So I feel like all the haters who are struggling in today's world, treat yourself with something, even a little snacky snack. Maybe it'll help bring everybody's
better.
endorphins up.
Feel better.
Yeah, and then the world will be a better place. So our guest, I feel like we could sit here and talk all night, but our guest is someone who can help us treat ourselves, and also he can give us a little, maybe a little insider information as to what's
Some of the events that have
recent
transpired
events.
over the last few days.
Yep. So we're really excited to talk to him. David, thank you so much for coming in
It's always a
and
pleasure.
chatting with us.
I didn't have to go very far to come in.
No, you're right, but that's true. Thanks for sitting up here at the table with
My
us.
pleasure.
Yeah. All right, coming up, we talk to our guest. Stay tuned.
Gonna make me sweat now. Here I go in the hot tub. Too hot in the hot tub. Burn the flesh. Make it cooler. Good God. Don't be flat. I'm gonna get in the hot tub. I'm gonna get in the hot tub. Hey, Lydia.
The Liquor Booth is your home for a huge selection of beer, wine, and spirits. The Liquor Booth has 2 locations in Quincy, 3520 Broadway and 1500 North 12th Street. The Liquor Booth, where it's always happy hour.
A&B Properties is Quincy's largest apartment rental company with hundreds of units available. They offer short-term and long-term rentals with 1 up to 4 bedroom apartments. A&B Properties meets the needs of its tenants with care, compassion, and a quality of service that exceeds expectations. A&B Properties also has a convenient tenant app for you to do your payments or make repair requests. Give them a call today. A&B Properties, 217-919-8080, Quincy.
Here I go in the hot tub. Too hot in the hot tub.
I want to go see Les Mis at somewhere else because I've only seen it here, and I love the movie, and I love Hugh Jackman's portrayal as Jean Valjean, and Scott was in Legally Blonde, and now he's in Newsies, and so
Newsies
yeah,
is freaking
we're looking forward to seeing it on Saturday.
This
So
is the
that's
last
gonna be fun.
weekend, though, right? Is this the last?
Believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so, too.
So anyway.
Okay, well, welcome, Matt Anderson.
How's it going?
Oh, fantastic. I
Good
was
to
just
see ya.
saying, I feel totally underdressed.
He totally overdressed for this.
God,
It's Club Muddy, man. Come on.
Hey, you know.
gotta look
That's how
the
I go
part.
to the club.
He had
Yeah,
business.
right?
I'm sure you do. So
Dress for the part you want, right?
Yeah,
I love it.
absolutely.
So, Matt, I know a little bit about you, but I'm really excited to talk to, just learn a little bit more. I know that you were in the service.
Correct.
Okay. I also know that you own or run the CBD store here in
The
Quincy.
CBD store, yep.
Yep. I know you have a beautiful family. I know some of your kids personally. They hang out with my girls, and just a really interesting fella. So I'm stoked to get to talk to you about things, especially concerning some recent events and how you think maybe kind of all of your experiences tie together and how we can kind of tackle some of it. So, Bob, I'll let you start with the first question.
I guess basically going back to the events of the 13th of July when on the assassination attempt of President Trump, you had some experience in Army intelligence, and I'd like to hear your perspective on that whole situation.
Well, I mean, I think it was probably one of the more sobering moments for the country that we've had in quite some time. I've actually... I've got a friend of mine, he's a Vietnam veteran, and he kind of compared it to when Bobby Kennedy was killed, and said, he was 13 when that happened, kind of, as he sees things in this country and as divisive as they are right now, he had a lot of comparisons kind of back to the 60s, which I've never drawn those conclusions because I wasn't alive in the 60s.
Sure.
So,
Right.
and I've heard it tossed around that, we've never been this divisive since the 60s, but to have somebody close to me kind of explain their, perspective on why they feel that way, I think it's just kind of something, that kind of just gives everybody a little kind of insight on where we are, compared to where we were 80 years ago, and
Right.
where we kind of want to go as a country. And
We definitely, it's sad to hear that we haven't really progressed much, right? You would think as we evolve as human beings, as a society, that we would learn more.
Yeah.
So you mentioned social media and, kind of individuals coming together to create our own destiny, I think, right? Good, bad, or ugly. It's really interesting, and I think it does play a heavy part in, although we have progressed via technology, emotionally, I would say, in some aspects, that it comes out wrong via social media.
Oh, I think that's, probably, I don't think there's anybody that would really argue with that.
Right.
There's only some sites limit how many characters you can use. Some sites, push a certain type of content, whether it's video or whether that's a picture with a caption. And so, a lot of stuff gets lost in translation, and then us as the consumers are kind of sitting around trying to pick up all the pieces and put our own stories together. And, I've kind of seen the comparison, or when I first got back into town about 10 years ago, there was a kind of a firm line that was kind of drawn where, Quincy politics and national politics operate a little bit differently.
Right.
We've got our neighbors here, and whether you might be Democrat or Republican, I'd still vote for them because I know more about them personally. I think we're kind of, even as our community, kind of moving farther and farther away from that.
Yeah.
As we kind of get tugged, and everybody's looking for that 15 seconds they can grab you for. So it's an interesting place to be. I think we kind of are in a different part of information digestion than we ever have been before. And like you kind of say, we kind of write our own destiny as far as how we react online, what we decide to share publicly versus what we decide to share with our friends. So I think it's all part of the machine, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Going back to the actual event, and let's talk a little bit about some of your Army training
yeah.
there. And I mean,
What was your title?
So my job, I was a human intelligence collector.
Okay.
35 mic is the kind of caveat number.
35
So
mic.
long, 35 mic.
so
35M, yeah.
so this kid gets up on this, walks around with a gun in the outer perimeter for God knows how long, basically cased the joint, if you want to look up that up, and gets on the roof, and there are people yelling, "Hey, somebody's on the roof with a gun," and they don't go get, I mean, what
Secure the
the
area.
hell happened?
I mean, from everything I've kind of taken in, I think there were failures probably at multiple levels. All in all, I think it kind of everything does fall back on the Secret Service, because even whether, from my perspective, and I don't know all the, training and procedures that the Secret Service
Right.
has in place, but, from my perspective, when I was in the Army, you can delegate the task, but you can't delegate the responsibility. So, if I'm the Secret Service, my job is to protect the president, and I might have an outer perimeter or cordon, I'm still responsible for making sure that the people who are monitoring that or doing, what they need to do for my mission. So,
It took, the Secret Service director went and was just eviscerated before the House committee, as she should have been. And then she finally got around to resigning, although I think somebody said, hey, the chief of staff, the president's chief of staff went, yeah, you're resigning or you're fired.
No
and so, she was a proud Eastern Illinois graduate, by the way. Don O'Brien and I were talking about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No.
So, but I look at that, and again, and I think the problem though now is now what comes of this? I mean, we've had conspiracy theories on Kennedy and Lincoln, and you go back and whatever. Not really so much with Reagan, because everybody knew that John Hinckley was just crazy and whatever. But now with this, we've got all these conspiracy theories that from the left that this was staged and he really wasn't shot, and then from the right that it was Biden. It was the White House who ordered the hit. And had the attempt been successful, he would still be there. And now, but since the attempt failed, that's when he had to step down. I mean, all this crazy shit is out there on both sides, and I know the truth is in the middle. I refuse to believe that either one of those other things is possible.
Yes.
Am I wrong?
I mean, I would like to think that. I mean, obviously, anybody with power can wield that power however they feel is right until somebody puts a stop to it. But and there's that can go really far in either direction. I think landing somewhere in the middle is kind of where we all need to at some point, because like you said, the truth is kind of somewhere, I think, probably between those two. Like I said, there's failures at other levels or multiple levels. And so it's not just going to, probably be what looks the most clean and clear cut, because, I can tell you that even U.S. intelligence agencies don't communicate probably the way we should.
No, and that was evident before 9/11, and that was supposed to be fixed with the Department of Homeland Security, but apparently it wasn't.
Yeah, so I mean, it's I'd like to think we landed somewhere in the middle. I think, the rhetoric that's been used kind of drives those different theories. We keep continuing to call this guy a sniper. He wasn't a sniper. He was shooting from 130 yards. Yeah. In the military, we call it up to 300 yards. That's a basic marksman. So, I think a lot of that kind of drives some of the perspectives on either side. And so I think it's definitely a rhetorical issue, and I don't think it's a left or a right issue that we have, especially in a situation like this. It's an American problem.
It's human.
But I remember when Bill Clinton visited back in 2000, and I was covering that for the WIG or GEM at the time. And I was out there, and I was up in this front group with some of the other media, and you looked up, and at the building there were cops, there were guys, you knew they were law enforcement on the roof all around President Clinton at the time. And again, that was all within 50 yards. But then you go, okay, because he gave his speech right in front of the Mercantile here at 5th and Main. But then you look to the east and you saw guys on the roof. But then you look to the west and Lincoln Douglas, there was guys on the roof. Yeah. And you looked at the Hotel Newcomb and guys were on the roof. And there were guys who were, and I would say that, I don't know the distance from the Lincoln Douglas apartments to that spot. But, it was secure. And you're talking 130 yards away, and you just said that's not even sniper. A sniper can look at that and say, I can do that with one eye closed, which, whatever.
Mostly I consider a sniper people that are shooting outside of that normal marksman distance, which is going to be at least 600 yards.
But for them to not secure a roof that's 130 yards away, what in the hell is going on?
I'm really surprised that some civilian didn't just take it upon themselves to go take this kid out.
Seriously, they were all pointing. If you looked at the video, they're all like, "Oh my God, there's a guy up there."
Knowing Trump supporters, and I know some in town who probably would have taken that guy out, right? Just individually. It surprises me that no one took that on. Now, this isn't a conspiracy, because I think what you said is that's where it's at. It's an American issue, and more intrinsically human, that it doesn't matter if you like this Trump guy or not, right? He's a father, a grandfather, a husband. It's a human thing that if you don't agree with him, that's your right. To want someone dead because you don't agree with him is something that's intrinsically wrong with human beings today. And I think it's because we've gotten so numb to the fact that people are humans, because all we see anymore in my opinion anyway, are bots that just are people on the other side of a keyboard that say what you don't agree with and you want to fight them, but only until you see them face to face. Because a lot of times you wouldn't say those things to someone, right? It's like relationship issues more than anything else.
But you look at, there were many people who got out there and said, "Oh, too bad he missed," or whatever. And a lot of those people got fired from
Locally
jobs
even.
and things like that. And again, I believe in freedom of speech, and you can say stupid things and whatever, but that doesn't mean your boss can't fire you. You know,
Exactly.
that's what it's there are going to be you can say it, but there might be consequences. I get that. But then, I mean, some of the guys who I listen to who are libs and who are very fervent in their opposition to Donald Trump, the Jon Stewarts, the Bill Maher's, these guys are all like, "Hey, we don't do this. This is not how we do this.
not our
What is
characteristics."
going on? We want to win at the ballot box. We want to win legitimately. We don't want this. This isn't good for anybody."
Yep.
So, you know, most people listen to their better angels. You've just got this faction on both sides who would say whatever. I mean, whether it's, you know, you want to look at Joe Biden's decline, and you want to look at, and I want to look at it and feel sad for him, and the fact like, okay, dude gave his all. For a lot of years, I didn't agree with him politically on a lot of things, but you know, he was a public servant, but he also ran under the impression of, I'm going to run one term and hand it over. But then he decided he wanted to stick around, and that's when things got crossways, because then the debate happened, and it was, he can't do this.
So social media, I think, has taken. When I started on MySpace, let me just take it back to day one, okay? All right, I'm going to show my age. I'm okay with it. It was seriously, you picked your theme song, right, from your favorite, and you would have, you could post pictures, right? You had top 10 friends, but it wasn't based on much. It was just people you interacted with. I think that the moment Facebook came into play, it started off with good intentions. Now it's almost strictly political, strictly argumentative, strictly divisive, and I wonder what would happen if we just got rid of it and went back to something a little more rudimentary, where you could say kind of what's on your mind, because I do believe in freedom of speech, but I think that certain aspects of human beings are being taken advantage of on that, right? And it's being exacerbated.
Yeah, and I think the main thing is that, you know, those people that we wouldn't have usually listened to in the past or put much stake into, their voices have just been amplified and united, and you know, and it might not, and that's not always a bad thing. You know, there's tons of good things in which you want that virality to kind of, you know, promote, whether it's a not-for-profit event or you know, something good that happened in the news in your community. But the fact that every single post has kind of the traction, and like I said, I'm all about free speech,
100%.
But
is it really
we're not
free?
Fighting free because there's algorithms that are pushing the content out to everybody.
Is it really free because someone behind the scenes is deciding what we see more and more of?
We give them free content. That's what's free. So.
Yeah, so we're putting our thoughts out there. They decide who sees what to whatever benefit or agenda is happening at the moment,
and
right?
We also got to kind of think about the fact that our adversaries are also using that free information as well.
Yes.
Well, sure, they're also using it to influence us.
Yeah.
Or we're influencing ourselves by being so, I guess, conducive to all of the shit that's happening. Like, we're not mind control, you know, but it's like, okay, but everything is fed to you. You may think that it's an open forum. Everything is fed to you. So when you're talking about Russia, Ukraine, right? That tension, that side of the world, we all are fed information to lead us to believe one way or the other. And let's not be wrong. It could differ from one user experience on Facebook to another. So if let's say I post something anti-Russia or anti-Ukraine, somebody who's controlling that could push me something to make me believe the other side, to make me kind of question myself, right? Yeah. It's all just, for lack of a better word, it seems like a game, very dangerous, very unfortunate, with very dire stakes that I don't think anyone really takes into account.
Yeah, and I mean the end result could be, disaster.
I think we're
Especially
seeing it.
because we're seeing a lot more buzzwords. I'm going to go ahead and say it. The
Yeah.
whole DEI agent is about ready, or DEI hire is about ready to pick up a lot more steam, I think. Even with people that might not necessarily have been a DEI hire. It's a label that can be put on somebody because of a situation that someone didn't see eye to eye with or didn't agree with. I see a lot more issues with the possibility for this to go off the rails.
Yeah.
If we're not a lot more conscious, then kind of getting us to where we want to ultimately get.
Well, and
100%.
I think we had that. We could have had that with Obama as well when he ran. And again, obviously there were people out there who wouldn't vote for him just because he was black or whatever. But then I think you look at it, and he ran against two guys that were just they were politicians, but they were public servants, but they weren't crazy. They weren't off the rails, and he runs against McCain and then Romney, and they're just back when and then I think that part of the problem is, number one, you've had Democrats who have demonized every Republican going back to whatever, and then you get a guy who is truly off the rails, in my opinion. Sorry, and it's like, oh well, okay, maybe Mitt Romney wasn't so bad, and maybe but that's what you get for your demonization of these people. But again, I'm not also saying that justifies anything. And just because Donald Trump isn't my cup of tea necessarily, but that doesn't mean that he should be shot at. And any of the people who said that, it's like, oh,
Shame.
screw you.
Shame
That's
on you.
No, that is beyond the pale.
Yeah.
And I truly was hoping that would be an epiphany for him. I really hope that.
Well, Mekhi Thompson said that when she went to the Republican National Convention that he did seem to be taken down a couple pegs, right? So
until his speech.
Okay. Well, but here's what I'm questioning, and this is my conspiracy brain, right? And call it what you will. We don't know. Nothing that's given to us is the full truth.
Right.
Right? So we know what's fed to us via legacy media, via local media, but what we get
Except us.
Well, but even in this regard, we only know what's fed to us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Unless you're there and you know everything's happening, it's like you don't know what's the truth. So earlier we were talking about this guy's on the roof. Well, did people yell at him? Did people see him? We only know what we're given because we are ye lowly people who weren't there. We don't know anything. It's always open to interpretation. I think that's the biggest problem with legacy media, with social media. I think everything's open to interpretation and everyone has a sounding board. And until we figure out how to dance that fine line between free speech and what's good for humanity, I think we're always going to have a problem because you're always going to have this divisive nature unless somebody who is truly unbiased comes in and doesn't have an algorithm, doesn't do a thing. It's just like who you follow is what you want to see naturally. So you get to see what your people are saying. But then it creates even more divide. So I don't have an answer, but I do know that nothing is factual.
And we've got it nationally. I don't want to see it happen locally, but we do get instances of this.
100%.
locally. We really do.
For sure.
And it's just like, do we have to do this here?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, and it's. I think you kind of landed kind of in the right spot, Ashley. Just as far as I've heard the fact that they knew the shooter. He was labeled as a suspicious person, and up to an hour before.
Well,
the
now
event.
people are
I've heard
saying
20
he's
minutes
on
before the
hormone
event,
replacement therapy. It's like how the fuck are we supposed to know the actual truth?
Yeah,
right.
and
Sorry,
and some of the
cut you
stuff, it's like, does it really, even if say they are on hormone replacement therapy? I mean, does it really affect the outcome? From if somebody does their job exactly how they're supposed to do it,
Yeah.
What are we going to drag in as far as some of these outside issues that might not to muddy the waters of something that we're all trying to straighten out, and everybody wants to know what the truth is. I look at more what the facts are because, like you said, we're never going to know the truth. I think that's a little more subjective than we sometimes give
100%,
ourselves
absolutely.
credit for. So
And God forbid we just run on the issues without the name calling. without the mispronunciation of the names, without the what. Run on the issues. Run on how am I going
Policies.
to make the run on my policies. How's the economy getting better? How are we going to stop the border? How are we going to stop the flow from the border? Those kinds of things. How are we going to create more better jobs for everybody? Can we just talk
Safety
about
of
that?
the United States of America, number one, right? Safety. It's like what Brittany says all the time, Quincy first. And I'm not throwing this out locally because I know it's not comparable, but it is like we have to make sure that we're safe before we can help. I mean, of course I want to throw everything out to everybody and be like, yes, we're the savior. We're not. And until we can keep people safe, we shouldn't be throwing out life rafts to anyone else and drowning ourselves, right? And that's not a statement on migrants. That's just a pure, full-on statement of, United States is built on life, liberty, and the pursuit of right. So, I feel like we're failing on all of those.
Well, and I think I know we had Citizens United, but we still need campaign finance reform because, like you said, Kamala Harris brought in $81 million. Donald Trump brought in $56 million after he got shot. My God, there's a much better use for that money than buying a bunch of freaking TV ads and signs.
I was just gonna say, so the polarization of parties. And I'll go ahead and say this because I've said it numerous times during COVID, all of that energy and effort, and we still have kids who are hungry. We still have veterans who aren't housed. So all of this energy that's being put into name calling and fighting, and what if we all just pooled all that energy to tackle things that really mattered, right?
Well, and I kind of compare it to, and I'm not trying to get too political on this conversation.
Too late.
But personally,
ship sailed.
With all the investigations that Congress conducted over the past 4 years, and we're wanting like actual issues to get fixed, and there's millions upon millions of hours and not just in Congress, but then all the supporting agencies that have to put all this work into a situation where, of course, we don't want I'm going to say overly corrupt politicians because I think there's a fine line between corruption and no corruption.
I don't know if there aren't any.
Jimmy Carter might have been the last
but at the same time, I think
we
need to start reeling some of these things in as people and just say, hey, do we want problems fixed or do we want to focus on two individuals for 4 years?
Well, and I feel like the conspiracies kind of come in because the lack of trust. And if we can't trust our leaders and we can't trust the people who are going, on the House floor to represent us, which I don't think anybody does. I mean, I think it's pretty much they've lost all of our faith, right? Collectively as a nation. That's unfortunate. How do we fix that? It's not by voting for one guy or another, because I think it starts below that, because we all know that, yes, the president is in the hot seat, but they're not necessarily running the ultimate show. So how do we make sure, starting at ground zero, that we have people we can trust in there? And I think it comes back to the procedures in which these people get elected, which is why you're talking about money, right? Yeah. Money, unfortunately, has become the ultimate value of everything, and everybody just wants more. I think there should be, we all need to take a step back and be like, how can we improve this whole process from the ground up? Because this seems like the possibility for corruption is not just there, it's inevitable. So I think that as a nation, as citizens of this nation, we should be asking for better. And I'm not just talking about Biden or Trump or Kamala. I'm talking about the entire system, because it seems like there's something systematically wrong with the United States of America. And as long as it's wrong, people will take advantage of it. And that goes from the welfare state all the way up to the president of the United States. I mean, it's on every level that there is a systematic issue. And instead of fixing it, we throw money, and that money goes in the wrong pockets, and those pockets become more and more powerful, and we never fix anything. Agree or disagree?
No,
I agree with
totally agree.
So how do we fix it? I'm not saying we're going to answer it, but I think that's definitely a statement. Also, to move on to the next topic is, unless you're not ready, we can always... I'm good. If you're talking about, cliche words, we can always circle back.
No, it's fine.
But I think regardless of, if the systematic issues came before or the mental health issues came before, there's a cart before the horse type of thing that we haven't figured out yet, that I think mental health, the one thing that's happened that I do think is great is that we have started to pay more attention to mental health and the importance of, mental health. but I think sometimes people use that as kind of a crutch, like I have this issue, blah, blah, blah. But I do think it's important to tackle it. And I think that another one of your facets as, a fella and a great fella at that is your CBD store.
That's correct.
So I want to talk a little bit more about this because I'm really intrigued by it. So CBD is what?
CBD is a chemical molecule found within the cannabis plant, consisting of cannabis. I use the word consisting of both hemp and marijuana.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a chemical molecule. It's non-psychoactive, so it doesn't cause any sort of high. The research that's been done on it to this point is I'll call it rudimentary. Even though we are using, including our company, we've conducted 2 FDA-approved human clinicals on 2 of our different products. But it's not there because there was so much federal regulation over any part of the plant, for 60, 80 years.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things where I don't think we're at the solution yet. There's still a huge information gap that needs to be filled. It's one of the most complex yet and fascinating things I've ever kind of gotten myself into.
Yeah.
So I work in the energy industry, so I've kind of have found a niche for working in more regulated, complex areas. But yeah, it's definitely over my last about 3.5 years, I've been like truly just downhill, almost 4 years, just kind of studying the cannabis plant. Everything, we assist people in quality of life improvements from, different symptoms of, dementia and Parkinson's to different cancers, even if it's something as simple as like, it may seem simple, but like appetite stimulation for those people, for that population. So, it's
hormones. I mean, it has outstanding results in certain, studies, which I think is really cool. So it's an extract in its natural form.
It's in the natural form. It's a part of the plant. So, and then through science. And different extraction techniques, we've found out how to isolate the different properties.
Gotcha.
Once we've been able to identify them, there's over 120 different cannabinoids, and then you've got all these other plant molecules. Cannabis, it's got over 500 different chemical components that are available within the plant. So
let's dispel a couple of misnomers, right? So CBD in and of itself does not necessarily give you the feeling of being high.
Correct.
Because I think when it first hit the market, I think that was a big misunderstanding across the board. It was like, well, I can't take CBD, it'll get me high. Not necessary, right? And I think a lot of people probably still have that misconception. Does the hemp, when you separate, so when you're separating the CBD from the plant, the CBD has all of the kind of natural, I don't even know what you would call it, like the compound has all of the natural good stuff that kind of helps balance your systems from your gut to your lymph nodes, your lymphatic system. It has just a ton of benefits, and that goes humans, pets. I mean, it's across the board, right?
Pretty much every single animal, including fish, reptiles that we've found has what's called an endocannabinoid system. That's ECS for short. And it's the cool thing about it is it's actually the largest system of receptors within the human body, and we only found the ECS back in the late 80s. So even as a whole, we knew back in the 60s, hey, pot made you high, but we didn't know how it made you high.
Yeah, because back then they were just like getting high and having fun and doing CBD and loving life, right? They weren't fighting each other on Facebook. We should take note. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, it's good to kind of point that out.
Just looking
like you've been a lot of fun at Woodstock.
Dude, I'm telling you, I would have been in those mud pits just loving life.
I mean, really a lot of any sort of, the real super significant research as far as knowing how this actually interacts within the human body has only been done over the last 30 years or so.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's all these individual different plant chemical compounds, and each one of those, performs differently within the body. The different receptors are within every single tissue. So your tendons, your heart, your lungs, your gut,
right,
bone, skin. So it gives us a lot of ability to kind of access the system in different ways.
Yeah.
To benefit the customers.
So have you ever taken any CBD? You know anybody who has?
Yeah, I got some stuff from him for Ellen for her knee, some cream, and she liked it. It worked well.
Yeah. So I have definitely taken CBD. I've also smoked a little pot, so I know kind of both sides of it, right? It's like I want to like make sure that people understand that when you're taking CBD, whether it's oil or lotions or rub, whatever it is, you're not going to get high. You're not going to have the feeling of high. It just it's has compounds that are good for you, whether it's hormonal, blah blah blah. I actually had some. It's like an oil drop, I believe, that you would put under your tongue.
Tincture.
Yeah, to help with stress, because this is when my kids were younger. I was about ready to lose my shit, right? And I was like, I need something that I'm not gonna. I don't want to be out of the game. Like I want to still be functioning. I want to be a great mom. I want to be involved in things. I don't just want to be, high.
Veg.
Right. I don't want to be high, so I'm not experiencing life. So I went and got, what's it called?
Tincture.
Tincture. Yeah. And it helped so much that it almost leveled me out naturally that I didn't need it anymore. Like it got me to a point where I was like, okay, I think I can handle it now. I mean, it totally regulated me to the point where I feel like I was just off before and I needed something to bring me back down to the level, and it did that. So it's not something that you're, because a lot of things with like prescriptions, and correct me if I'm wrong, prescriptions, you almost kind of build up a tolerance to, so you always have to up your dosage. And I think that's what scares a lot of people with prescriptions, as it should. CBD almost is, at least for my experience, was the opposite. It kind of taught my body how to regulate itself, and then I didn't need it anymore.
So I mean, you can develop a tolerance to CBD, just like everything else. The more you use it more frequently, your body's going to get used to. Especially since we're not improving anything, we're regulating systems.
Okay.
Once your body gets used to a certain amount of regulation, when something comes into it, it's going to get used to it a little bit. We always start off low and slow, and what we do is we just help maintain and control that tolerance. I've had most of my customers, they've been shopping with me for well over 2 years now, and because we control that tolerance, we don't have to up the dosage.
Sure.
And if we do, it's very, very minor or moderate, kind of just depending on whether it was something with their condition that just got kind of out of whack, or whether they don't think they can go five. And I want to be careful. I'm not talking about addiction here.
Yeah.
They don't think they can go 5 days because they're actually feeling so much better naturally.
Sure.
And we'll say, okay, well, let's just try bumping it up a quarter of a dropper, because each one of our droppers are Merck, so we can get really specific with the dosing, so that way they can replicate effects every single day. So, we just kind of manage that. And, there's even been some times after I've been on a product for a couple of years, and, I'll take 5 to 7 days off. That's all you really need, just enough time for the body to rebound a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, just go right back to the same dosing that you were on. So,
right.
I've got a lot of people that are wanting to use less THC, because we do sell some products that do contain THC as well.
Okay.
But they'll want to be using less THC, so we'll set them up kind of a schedule for that tolerance break. Work with the supplemental products underneath of it that don't cause that high, or that euphoria, as I better like to call it.
Yeah.
So, So I mean, it's just one of those things where we can kind of tailor and script kind of a supplemental regimen for
case by
each
case.
individual person.
Yeah, love it. But you definitely want expert help. And I know that I asked you before, do you have to have a prescription? And the answer is resounding no, because it's all natural.
You can fly. These things these products are federally legal. So you can take them through TSA.
Do employers test for it, and could I potentially, if I don't talk to my employer before, get in trouble for it?
So,
you, Bobby.
For CBD in particular, no, I don't know of any employers that test specifically for CBD. Usually, they're testing for THC. Since that is the
euphoric drug,
euphoric substance. So, now we do have some products that have like a trace amount, and the way I explain it to people is it's not enough to make you high, but it's enough to make you fail a drug test.
Yeah,
if you're
it's
on
enough
it
to show up
for
for
a
me.
routine,
Yeah.
every single
Sure,
day.
sure.
So, and then we do have products that have been third-party lab tested by a DEA certified lab, not to contain any THC. So no detectable levels of THC. So
Gotcha.
I've got a lot of truck drivers, hospital workers, things like that, people that do want to.
Can you give us a few names? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I kind of run my own HIPAA policy, so I don't discuss any.
Yeah.
I don't discuss any
Yeah.
individual client
Yes.
needs.
No, I was
with
just
anybody
going to say,
else,
I mean,
so.
of course you want to have, expert guidance before you, partake in CBD, know that you're taking the right dosage, know that you're doing it for the right reasons, ask questions, always talk to your employer, right?
Yes.
Have
It's
you ever
very
watched the
important.
Daily Muddy? Obviously, she's on something.
Listen, that's high on life, baby. I'm high on
Yeah.
life. No, I think CBD is something that's, it like you said, is relatively new to the market. I think there's probably a lot of research that's yet to be done, but it's awesome to know that the results kind of speak for themselves, especially personally and a lot of people that I know. So, what kind of prompted, I mean, it's a franchise, right?
Correct,
Okay,
yeah.
so what prompted you to do that?
So I was a medical marijuana customer back, this is probably, I'll say 2016 to 2019. I was dealing with some of my own health
Shit.
issues,
Yeah.
physical and mental health
Sure.
issues. So, I was seeking out my doctor at the VA was like, hey, I can't write you a letter because we can't do that. We're federal doctors. Sure. But, this might be something you want to check out. So, I kind of did my research, started going down that path. My mom got sick in 2018. Had a rare form of uterine cancer.
Okay.
And so, I had received some results. Wasn't quite where, I thought I should be or could be yet, but, I was moving in a better direction. And so I kind of brought up, hey, Mom, and she was, 62 years old, registered nurse, really very
Young.
kind of into the more traditional medicine, stuff
Sure.
like that. So it wasn't something that she was really wanting to go down that path on. But she ended up passing away in 2019. And
Sorry to
so
hear
then
that.
kind of after that, the opportunity came to actually purchase this franchise from a previous owner who had been in Quincy for about 9 months with the store. I saw it as a valuable asset to the community, and so then I went ahead and purchased the franchise
Yeah.
from him. So wanted to kind of, if I couldn't help my mom, see how many other people
Yeah.
I might be able to kind of improve some.
That's a
quality of
great
life
why.
issues for. So.
I'm glad I asked. I don't think that was on my docket of questions, but I'm
Yeah.
glad I asked. Yeah, sorry to hear about your mom, but glad that you're carrying on her legacy and trying to help others for sure. So speaking of family, I kind of touched on you have a beautiful family, and so you're not just a working man. You're not just a service. Thank you for your service, by the way. I don't know that
appreciate
we
your
said that,
support.
but you are a family man and you have your own hobbies when you're not at the CBD store
do.
or trying to tackle political things or socioeconomical things, right? So I always see one thing in particular that's a common theme on your social media, and that is golf.
I do like golf.
Yeah.
I do like golf.
Do you
so.
consider yourself good?
I'm consider myself improving.
There you
so,
go.
I actually kind of this year was where I kind of figured out just how mental the game of golf was. So I stopped caring as much, and I've done a lot better this year than I have.
Yeah.
Probably the previous 7. I've been really kind of swinging the stick around for. So
Yeah. How long have you been golfing? Trying to golf.
Trying
I'm
to
kidding.
golf.
I'm kidding.
No,
I'm kidding, I'm
definitely
kidding.
trying to golf.
Yeah.
I mean, I started playing in college.
Oh, really?
So 30-some years, but yeah, I'm not very good. But I just like getting out. So
I'm still hanging out in about 22 as far as the handicap. So I don't know. If
Oh,
anybody
yeah, that's
would
about-
really
I'm-
consider
yeah,
that
I'm high
good,
tea- I'm
so-
high tea. I'm
Guys, I don't even know what the handicap
Nobody
is.
high
would
tea.
consider
Yeah.
that good, but yeah, definitely improving. I can make some pretty clutch shots in tournaments when I need to. things
So when I
like that, so.
started playing golf, I say started. It was like, I don't know, 4 years ago with my husband, who
Your husband's good.
He's really good, yeah, and he's a really good teacher. But I didn't realize how mental it actually is, because you definitely get in your head, and it's aggravating. I mean, what's the movie where he like beats the shit out of the club?
Happy Gilmore.
Yeah. That was me. I didn't actually beat the club up because it wasn't mine, but I could have, because I was like, how is this hard? It's a ball and a stick. I can totally do it. No, I couldn't. But I have respect for the game. I also have respect for the fact that you're teaching your kids. I think that's if I know. So my daughter is the same age as your daughter, Olivia, and if I know anything, it's that they're not very receptive, especially around these years, you know, to being taught something or learning. So I love that you take your kids out and teach them, you know, kind of the game of golf, which is more than just a game, of course. I mean, I think it's just so much to it. But
I found a lot of like life parallels with golf. So
Yeah.
Sure.
that's kind of I try to use the opportunity while I'm trying to keep them calm after they make a couple bad shots in a row, just to kind of
Woosah.
find those areas to kind of say, hey, this is a great time to take a breath.
Yes. Yeah. So aside from golf, what else do you find yourself doing in Quincy?
Oh man, I like getting out here to a lot of the downtown events throughout the summer. Winter's kind of like my rough patch because I like to snowboard. I'm kind of not able.
Oh, you're
to
down
do
for the
that
count,
right now,
man.
so,
Yeah.
And then I mean, just I was out in Fort Lewis, Washington, out in the Cascades for a while, and then went over to Europe, over to Germany. So like, my idea of snowboarding in St. Louis and
not
the
so much.
Quad Cities area,
You're not going to
they're a
Hidden
little-
Valley and having the same
They're
experience.
a little
not
bit
at all.
different.
Yeah.
So I do still like to run down there
For
and just
sure.
have some fun and
Yeah.
slide
Yours is
around on the
close.
ice a little bit. So
Yeah.
that's usually what it is. Since
Yeah.
we've had like a couple warm winters here. It seems
Yeah. No
like
kidding.
lately. So
Yeah.
besides February.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you, sir, for stopping by. It was very informative, especially your insight on the intelligence, military intelligence stuff, as well as the your CBD store. So I'm glad that's doing well for you. And yes, thanks for stopping by, man.
Yeah. Very cool. Always intriguing. It was lovely to speak with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going hot dog. Gonna get in the hot town.